Hi, everyone. I hope you're very well and you feel amazing, and somehow life has prepared you in an amazing seat to hear this talk of mine. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's been watching my videos. To be honest, they're evolving in regards to the approaches I'm taking, and they're actually becoming much deeper. But it's like me talking about these things, and I'm increasing my attraction of deeper questions, which is amazing. Because we need good questions that never have been asked before. Because once you ask a question that never has been asked, people will look in that direction. You can suggest things people have never seen. You must have that ability. And that is why every person is an artist, if within any moment they view the greater sense of possibility and presence. You think about what's the greatest moment you can see, a moment where you're not bothered by the changes regardless of the change. So you go over that search. Anyways, back to the thing I wanted to talk about. Guys, today I will be talking about something which I feel is ahead of its time, and that is both good and bad. What I mean by that is what I will be talking about is a very ancient view, a very uncommon idea, something that is unheard of, literally, to some people. And because it's unheard of, it is not embraced, and it's actually bashed. It's bashed by how real it is based on another reality, when there are many realities. So there's many wavelengths of experience. Anyways, I'm going to talk about something today that I don't know if any probably in the West, maybe not, more in, I think, the East, but a 3-year-old kid is going to talk about, right? So I'm going to suggest something that I've understood about these sacred texts, and something that I've understood by looking at a mystic and looking at a person who's not a mystic and seeing their comparison. You see, I see that the greatest questions that people ask are the ones that have nothing to do with other people's way of thinking. It has to do with your way of thinking. When you're doing this, you're solving one of your problems. You're not solving a problem that's given to you, right? But your problem can contain everything else that every other problem suggests. Those become deeper problems of life. See, they're like regular problems of life, as in, all right, what do I need to do in the next stage? What do I need to do in this age? What do I need to do? What's cool? What's nice? What's comfortable? What's harmonious? You're always seeking that next harmony in regards to your action. But you see, there's some people who see this and they actually choose to live differently because they choose to see differently. They choose to see more than the limitation, so they're like, how can I see the limitless? And when you ask this question, you understand the only way you can see it is to see through these eyes. So you begin to see limitless qualities, eternal quality, things that actually are producing to life not ending, but always continuing and changing. Having a direction. In other words, the light that was switched on was a direction for the whole room, for any eye, any presence. See? Now, what I would like to talk about is an amazing idea, because I've discovered that intuitively I've been, I guess innately, without reading something I've read recently in regards to research, that what I call following your intuition, your spirit, your nature, and what perhaps many Native Americans have talked about, the great nature spirit, or spirit of the wild. That intuition, that guiding flow in your life. Well, there is a very interesting approach you can have to the idea of that your life's going at a flow, at a certain flow. You're a relaxed person. You're like, okay, let me just ride the wave. It's fine to ride the wave, but you need to be aware that the wave is connected to the ocean. The wave is not separate by its own consideration. You are not separate by your own consideration. Because when you close your eyes and you think about nothing, or you imagine yourself, flying or going somewhere or disappearing, you're still here, right? Your separation is not by your own conception. So, guys, never judge anyone who thinks that there's a creator in life. Don't automatically assume it's their view of God. It's their own experience of God. You know, science might find itself having the freedom to bash the idea and the concept of God and religion. But the concept of the creator suggests to the experience of the creation, and you can never judge the experience of the creation. You cannot judge the sensitivity of life because you do not see through all eyes. Now, anyways, what that means is, let's go back, that the concept of the creator is always trying to speak to you. You know, I want you to understand that one of the most interesting concepts you can look at, I find, is the concept of the divine play. What does that mean? Divine play. Divine and play. Well, let's understand the play part first before we look at the divine part, okay? We're looking at play. So, you know, kids play, I play. When did I play the most? When I was a kid. Wait, why am I not playing now? What's the difference? Well, when I was a kid, what was playing? Well, playing was me doing something, being aware of it, but not distracted. Wait a minute. So what's distracting me now? So could I have been literally playing this whole time from the beginning, and I've been distracted to think? And you see, when you played, the way you appreciated the moment was different than how you appreciate it now. Because people are not grateful now. Once you become grateful, once you become aware and sensitive to what you are and what you have, you see that you don't expect more just because life owes you. You see that your life and you're abundant and everything is prepared for you in any moment of experience, not just any moment for the physical being. In other words, playfulness becomes life. And you see the reason they have this divine play, you know, is because while you're being playful, you see that the games we're involved in life have a certain hollowness to them, a certain emptiness to them. I don't know how to communicate this. You probably, if you resonate with this, you've probably seen in the view I'm talking about. So we need to see that playfulness in a play requires an actor. It's as if there's an actor, okay? But you see, a divine play is when the actor knows what it is and it's still acting. That's a different level of awareness than just thinking you're an actor. There's a difference between an actor who has forgotten he's an actor, and there's a difference between someone who has never even put the thing on. But you know, it doesn't mean that the actor who knows he's not an actor, you know, he knows he's not that character, is aware of the different characters that have played and are playing, and he can also be playing simultaneously because he has many faces, just like existence. So what I'm trying to suggest in a sense is that the divine play is your entrance to what I will be explaining. It'll pretty much give you the context of what I'm talking about. You know, I've seen a lot of great speakers, but unfortunately they do not communicate their contexts that well. So we cannot truly see what they're communicating about. Guys, it doesn't matter what kind of a speaker you are, if you're trying to be good or not. It just means that when you speak, you need to speak clearly, and the clearest way is to give background information of your concept before you actually explain your concept, because you want people to understand. So right now I'm saying, look at the divine play, and what the divine play means is that we are in this game of life. It is pretty much the idea of the fact that we have this mental cover of ourselves, which is our ego, which is confused in its own sciences. It's as if the concept of an ego is a very harsh place to go to, because you will be caught in your whole life questioning whether an idea is here or not, and you don't want to do that, right? So understand that the divine play means you know what you are. You have just forgotten, trust me, because the remembrance was never from this kind of you. That knowing that you're more than this was never by this sense of you that felt like it wasn't more than this, you know? So there's a change that will go on, and a change in awareness means that you see how you're looking from your eyes right now, you see how you're aware of your space. It means that awareness that space that is aware of you right now can transition and is part of a holographic expression. It's as if thoughts are part of a hologram of an evolving ape who, you know, doesn't know if its eyes are closed or not. Our eyes are open, but this openness can change through different closures. I hope that's communicated well. So in other words, the divine play is this playfulness in life where you're not stressed out or too serious about the things that happen, but at the same time you're receiving the experiences of the things you're here to do. You know? Guys, you must see that it's not that all beings don't know what they're doing. It's not that suddenly everyone's stupid or every child doesn't know where it is. No, it's not like that actually. You know, there's a lot of presences, beings on this planet. Before they are human, they are of a different consciousness. In other words, you see that your interest in life is gravitated to something you have been conscious of, or you're comfortable being conscious. Do you know? Guys, it's the fact that we have an extended memory that creates stress because we're remembering things but not being aware of the moment. We're covering our eyes with our past and wondering why we don't feel the same. You don't need to see why you don't need to feel the same. You know, discomfort is part of life. You're marching through the roller coaster ride never stopped. Now, all I'm suggesting is that many people who are able beings, you know, able in your own unique way. In other words, you know yourself the best, so you know which route to take. So stop asking anyone, including even me, because I'm a mirror. You know, it's pretty much that's how my talks are. So let me expand and take this where it has to go. Concept of a divine play. You guys, you know how we have free will? There's also this idea that there's the divine will. And what that means is that our life is guided by a greater intelligence than our form. So our form needs to be respectful and grateful of life, but at the same time, very open and creative to its mass peak of its own experience. Like, you need to not be restricted in this life. Actually, if you do feel restricted, you must be aware of those. And not that you must change them immediately, you must just see the connections. You must connect things. Every time there's a problem or a confusion in your life, once you begin to connect every single idea and look at it clearly, you never have a problem. Trust me. The solution to any idea that suggests a problem is to just be aware of the idea and know it's not a problem, it's an idea. If suddenly someone comes up to you and it's like, you've lost everything in your life, you're like, no, that's your idea. It's an idea. You're comfortable. You understand this, right? Now, once you become aware of your own idea, who is aware of you, it's like it's never been this lack of knowing. It's as if like once you, let's say you're practicing an art form. Once you master that art form, it's like you always could. You always were a master. Do you know what I mean? It's very amazing. It's a very interesting feeling where actually space and time are also curving in the minds of man's experience. Something probably Einstein felt but could not communicate at that time in regards to psychology and the brain and experience. You see, we need to be aware of what is experiencing and what we're experiencing, and then we see the quality of it, and we see why do we see the quality of it? Because we have comparisons. So now I will take you to the idea I will speak about. And actually, I will leave the divine play for later. You know, you retain whatever amount you needed to from those ideas. Now, what I want to speak about is that a student went up to an enlightened guru through his textbook. In his textbook, he went into his textbook and he went to the enlightened guru who was answering his questions. His question came on, how does an enlightened master, let's say a person who is aware of concepts of enlightenment and has had self-reflection, live their life? You know, because you know, guys, it's not only the stupid people who ask questions. It's every other type of person that asks questions. There's no stupidity in asking questions. Even the smartest and wisest men have understood they know nothing, and that is how they have retained their wisdom. That's how they've perceived it. So the question was, how do you do this if you feel you have a sense of mental awareness, physical awareness, you know, you're on, and you feel there's a flow and intuition to life. There's this inner intelligence, right? And what do? Well, you don't ignore your past, first of all. You need to understand, and guys, when I say you need to understand, I mean just hear the idea. Don't care about how I'm saying it. That regardless of how enlightened or self-aware you feel, you might have been the greatest Terence McKenna or the greatest Alan Watt or the greatest yogi, and you felt like that here. You might have done a lot of meditation, a lot of practice, a lot of actually traveling and self-discovery. But all I'm suggesting is that now understand that even though we are aware that we are aware, if we find ourselves deserving something else, we are arrogant, and so we are molded by a self-image. You see, you need to have no ideas on your spirituality. And it's kind of been very interesting for me, because I've been talking about all this stuff, but I've realized it's more than language, so I'm not so stuck on it doesn't matter what I say for me, because I understand what I'm showing to you is an experiential thing, and so I can write 1,000 books, and I could try to place those books in a shape that's you can realize, but it's not like that actually. It's actually like, it's not a book. I'm not here giving you homework. I'm here to show that it's an experiential thing. You have no homework. Your life is right now. Look at it well. Stuff like that. Now, to continue on, what is the solution to the student? Let's say back in the day, the students, let's say the young students especially, they had this awareness. They are like, okay, I understand. I have these qualities. I see the qualities in the master within myself. I see the sense of oneness with everything, but it's not a sense. It's not an idea. It's a sense of being. It's a sense of feeling. It's what many people have called the opening of the heart, for example. But still, what do? I understand this life. I understand that there's divine attention in my life. What that means, divine, guys, divine has no meaning, so don't let anyone judge that meaning, right? What is divine is simply how naturally things are moving. It's as if you looked outside the planet and you saw the changes in the planet, you'd be like, oh, so it's like the planet has a mind of its own in the way it's changing, right? We are in a changing world, regardless of how fast it's changing or slow for us. Now, we need to understand that there are certain implications from our past, because we see back in the day, guys, they had this idea called karma in the ancient days. And what karma meant was that where you're placed in life. When you look at where you're placed in life, it's a certain position. It's as if it gives you your uniqueness, but it's a certain position. It's like not every guy gets the girl. Not every girl gets the guy. It's like these positions where we find ourselves not being able to look past them, but we have. So I guess in a sense what I'm saying is that you see that you want to live a connected and unified life filled with joy and abundant experience. And that is a healthy lifestyle choice, especially at this time. In other words, you want a healthy consciousness. And you don't know what that means, but you want to find out what it means. Well, you need to pay attention to the condition of life you're in now, guys. And this is perhaps one of the most, it may be ahead of its time, but it will be one of the most helpful talks probably given from one human being to another human being. That when you look at through your life, and as you're aware of your Mr.Within, as you're aware of your own inner personal experience and knowing of what you are and simply what is here of you, when you're aware of this, you see that it's as if the result of what is happening, in other words, what you are deserving in this moment, what is happening to you right now, in this moment, we can say you deserve this. This has come to you. I don't know who you are. You could be in the toughest condition or the softest condition, but I'm saying, regardless, whatever moment you're in, you're hearing this right now, this is the condition life has put you in. You know best. Don't ask anyone else on the quality of your life. You define the quality of your life, right? So look at the quality, look at the quantity, look at the different experiences you have in your past. In other words, look at your past to understand why you're in this situation in the present. And you need to understand that when you look in the past, it goes past the point where I'm assuming you're a person who's self-aware beyond idea. So when you're self-aware beyond idea, it's sense of an allowance happening. It's like literally there's no ego to break. It's just an happening. It's just a knowing. In other words, to me, it's at a faster space of understanding. It's like we don't have the same wavelength of understanding. It's like we as beings have this level of understanding, but as it fluctuates, there's different forms of understanding. We don't even understand our own understanding. Trust me. Guys, hear it from Mr. Within. We don't understand our own understanding because we're always thinking we're understanding it. We're standing under it. We're not there, right? So beyond understanding is knowing. And knowing really implies the now. So pretty much as you're self-aware, you need to look at yourself and realize that it's as if you have a mission in this life based on the position you're put, but it's not a desire from now. It's as if your life purpose was your desire from another period of time, another form of expression, another energetic representation, right? So what that desire means is that you go see that before you forgot, who were you? And it doesn't have to be limited to form. When this self-awareness is reached, you kind of realize that you had a purpose before you forgot. In other words, the more we look at our past, the closer we actually get to the veil of our own remembrance. And what that means is after some point, we're looking back at so much at our past that we're remembering what was then right now, and it becomes real because the concept of a past, present, future never need to judge our creative potential. Our reality can be creative in many ways. You can't control reality. You cannot control reality. We think we're slaves to other people's vision. No, we're slaves to our collective agreement. And our collective agreement now is innately we are free. So what's going to happen? Eventually people are going to be born knowing they are freedom. You know what I mean? And you can't stop someone who is freedom. Who is not defined by shape. Is just is. He is the meaning, right? And this is going to more the divine element, where the play is not a play. It's the divine play. It's existential presence. It's the design of life. So in other words, pay attention to the design of life, to the design of your sense of self, right? And then look back through your past and very calmly and self-aware, look at why you're in your conditions and let meaning come to you. Rumi has this amazing quote that he says, what you seek is seeking you. And this is very true. Guys, it's as if your desires from other times will manifest to you because they were things you wanted to complete. In other words, the more you think about your past, the more your present becomes a product of it. The more you think about the future, the more the future, is affected by the present. You choose the level of time we want to work at, because not everyone experiences the same experience of time. Not everyone experiences the same experience of space. We don't all have the same watches. We don't have the same. So we cannot control an unknown natural process, which is our experience. But we can become aware of where it was heading based on the forms. So in other words, through a very formless awareness, we look at the forms from other locations, other potentials, other times, other creative sources, and we add meaning. Guys, you don't need to doubt any meaning in your life. It's one lifetime. It's up to you to see the meaning that allows you to get the stuff done. Gets you to finish your great work, which is, I'll say now, I guess, because I'm saying it in this way, something I've really communicated thoughtlessly. It's a book I've written, right? So it's actually one of many, but it's the one that decided to step out of the many and to be the first. So your great work is your accomplishment perceived to the fullest peak of your experience within this moment, regardless of who you are. Guys, in other words, at some point, it doesn't matter what story of a life you are, what physical story of a life you are, in other words, what physical condition you're in right now, and where you are. Self-awareness transcends form. It is an observance of the form, and you owe yourself to observe the ideas you have. You owe yourself to know yourself. To know thyself, well, guess what? Jesus didn't even have to say it to you. You had to know yourself from the beginning. So think about the ideas that have been your distraction, and once you're observed from them, do not remain chained. The only reason you remain chained is you think about it too much, so the idea constantly is presented within your thoughts of reality. Your thoughts of reality must be guided by a more collective sense of knowing. In other words, all those senses of you, within you, that feel they doubt, they can't, they're incapable, they don't know, they don't believe, they don't trust, they're nothing, whatever, they have no value, they have no image value, they have no respect, they have whatever, etc., 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 the list goes on, based on your level of guilt. It doesn't matter. It is simply a period of experience. It's not a period of time or space, because space and time are experience. They're subjective and objective experiences. So once we retain the sense of self-awareness, we see that some of our desires in other lifetimes were perhaps healthy desires, but based on the limitations of our environment, we faded out with limited awareness. Guys, you need to see, when people say attraction, it is true, because once you're separated, you are attracting the other side because you're defining it. But as your definitions change, your attraction changes. It's as if suddenly, imagine the desires you have suddenly breaking, because there's no longer that sense of self. It's your choice of how you choose to be present. So in other words, guys, your presence, what is projected by your natural, if you were standing beside me, what you would project is based on how aware you are of how present you are. Because trust me, people live in a dream, because the only difference is it's still a dream, but they're accepting it's real. They're saying no. There's two types of dreams. There's real dreams and unreal dreams. Well, what does that mean? What is your explanation of altered states of consciousness and dreams? Well, I guess you don't have an explanation, because when we both dream, we don't know what's going on. But what if we did? What if there was a knowing that wasn't working with a sense of self that doubts? What if there was a natural revelation? What if revelation happened every moment of your life? In that sense, you realize your awareness would have a greater sense of free will. Because guys, you might limit your experiences if you chain yourself to a statue you've built from the past. That is why you need to look at your past to see in what ways the results of your cause are appearing. For example, I'll tell you, I was born in a family which some people will think it's good, some people will think it's bad, because it was relatively abundant, but at the same time it wasn't scientific, It was abundant based on a very compassionate sense of intelligence, right? My family was really sustained through a compassionate eye, a compassionate view. It's as if maintenance must maintain many things, but it can't, because it's only directed towards one thing. In other words, we should not constantly be fixing stuff. We should be in a fixed state of being where we are centered in our awareness, in our origin. You see, your questions change in their quality when your experience changes. It's like once you have that dream that you've never had before, you're never going to see the same. There's a difference, there's a fluctuation. So, in other words, to cut this short, many enlightened masters, I guess, would say, and when I say master, guys, don't get trapped in that idea. It's just an idea. Just very self-aware people have said in the past that you need to look back at your desires in the past to then see what it is that you were meant to do previously. In other words, it's like when you look at your past, you look at the origin of your action. You're pretty much going back to your memory and looking at the reasons. Guys, when we see that your memory is a limited apparatus, we understand that we're not speaking from memory, that our voice is not from our memory. But if we choose it, we will always create a body that is always slow to itself. No, a sense of observance through such apparatus, through such fixed ideas makes us slow. We have not even observed the potential of ideas. People have not understood how deeply movies are. It's as if many Tibetan, perhaps monks or Buddhists or Zen practitioners or meditators, meditators have just in their silence said to others, why, such expansion of entrapment? Why not silence and still yourself and be calm and flow well? So look at your past. This is not you're here based on many reasons. Find out what those reasons are, and they're not just relevant to this sense of time and space. It's like when you go to your workplace, when you go to your office, and let's say you suddenly enter your office, you're not just working with ideas of the office, you're also working with ideas outside of the office. You're working with ideas outside of the box. So you've designed the box, so you get rid of your box and look outside your own ideas. It's fairly simple, actually. In other words, stop judging things and look. That's it. When you do that, you become honest with yourself, so you don't lie. You actually become a very serious, honest person. It's funny because when I was growing up, one thing that was consistent in my life was just my sense of honesty. And it was bad because it was a sense of simplicity. It was a sense of like, oh my God, this person is still too honest for this life. It's like, in other words, I would balance it out based on a sense of based on awareness, not based on rationale. You need to understand rationality needs language to be explained. But awareness doesn't need a language. You don't need to explain your awareness. You don't need to compare and physicalize or objectify your thoughts, because they're not meant to be seen through objective eyes. That's why you don't see your thoughts, because your awareness to thoughts is not meant to be done by an awareness that only believes it's the body. Once you allow yourself and give yourself permission to be infinity, to be eternity, you explore those ideas based on an experiential level. The reason you're not given freedom is because you have not paid attention to your ideas, pretty much. And so if you, regardless of the experience that is induced, let's say if you take a psychedelic, which I've never taken psychedelics, but I've had experiences that many people say were, wow, you naturally had it close to a psychedelic. So it's very interesting, but I don't see psychedelics I see psychedelics as man's physical body trying to touch the truth beyond its thoughts. And you can't have physicality touch the mental realm when they're at different sensitivities. In other words, it doesn't matter what you take, what you do, it's a transition and a self-awareness to a greater wavelength of your own experience. What I mean by wavelength is that suddenly you see colors are much brighter. You see that revelation is your direction of choosing which way you want to steer. In this life, it's up to you to steer your moment, which is your vehicle, towards a certain version of it or an uncertain, a knowing or an unknown version of yourself, or not knowing. The unknown is not bad, but not knowing in a place where you have to know certain things is bad. We are not given freedom of thought because our thoughts are not talked about enough. In other words, we need to have every person be like me. Every person just get up and start speaking their experiences, so people realize that human experience is shifting. So human experience doesn't need to be in the same programs. When you limit man to the limitations of his bodies, you have limited his mental realm. You must never limit the mental realm. You must allow your child, your person, your presence to be as creative as possible. Infinite creativity, that is what you must seek. And the sooner you seek that, the sooner you become aware of the divine play that never needed to be scripted. Of this existence that is present in this own intelligence that is all-knowing only outside of language. The languages that create its lack of knowing. You are going back to home. And you know what home feels like. So trust yourself. Always. Trust yourself. But also trust in the changing self. Because when people tell you trust yourself, you need to understand, you need to trust even senses of self which are more able but you don't know about it. In other words, you need to trust, you need to risk doing everything. You need to go 100% in all your risks of whatever. If there's something you need to say it now. You don't need to hold it back, because it has come to you now in that unique combination. That is why I'm communicating these videos, because I don't have the sense of having to post these, but at the same time, because I'm posting it, it's coming across that way. And it's very hard to explain, but at the same time, it's beautiful because I'm giving it an unknown direction. I'm letting the ideas find me rather than me finding the ideas and having a structured setup. When you trust life, life delivers. The cause and effect become an instant revelation, instant recognition. And so you go based on that knowing. So, for you who finds himself a more attentive and self-aware being, look at your ideas. Look at your past. Look at your sense of time and space. Look at it. Look and see if you're experiencing time based on limitations of the past, possibilities of the present, and the unknowingness of the future. See if you're working with that layout of time, or you're working with a sense of time that is just present in the moment. If you want to get out of any stress, mental anxiety, or anything that is mentally disturbing you in some way, you need to refresh your sense of time and bring it within the moment, and you need to spend time in calm and peaceful places. You don't need to be among criminals, because when you're among criminals, you start thinking you are one, and unfortunately a sense of guilt comes within your programming, which hands you, which is if you feel, because I'm doing something wrong, I don't deserve to be a public, citizen. No, you need to always be comfortable stepping out, but you don't need to do something wrong. You don't need to make a complex problem. You don't need to do a lot of stuff for enlightenment. You actually need to have a very simple sense of awareness of where your complexity is originating from, and it's always originating from the simple. It's as if the first letter of a book, the first word of a book, is suggesting where everyone else is going. It's the next domino effect. So you see that when you're trying to look at your problems, you're looking at life, the way you go about it is you choose the complexity or the simplicity you want to look at it. Scientists choose a complexity, but it's a very profound sense of complexity, and that's why it's a beautiful area on its own. To know engineering is to know a machine, and to know machine is to know the potentials of our future. How will machines develop? So it's very fascinating to know science and physics, but also to understand that you also need to know the stuff that physics cannot talk about, which is experiential. The physics of experience. So, go through this path. Understand that your path home comes from you remembering. So, pay attention to how you're remembering and who is remembering, and allow yourself to receive whatever insight and required knowing it is you need within the moment. I have no idea where this video will go and in whose hands it will be after I have passed. I don't know where. It's as if I'm thinking of the eternal value of what I'm saying and the timeless value, and I think it has a good value, and I think if it's kept for people in the future, when I say people in the future, it means younger generations, because younger generations need to understand that there are mistakes that people just naturally enter. You do enter swamps in life. And when you enter swamps in life, you think life is a swamp. But actually, it's not. It's your sensitivity of experience. You're being insensitive. You're not appreciating, for example, every bite of your meal. You're not feeling every process that's happening in your body. So you're not understanding the amazing harmonies that are naturally, biologically present to you. Because you've defined your mental senses of life, based on idea. And ideas eventually is idea worship. So, I'm not an idea worshiper, but I do see how everything can break and the light to be perceived within it, not excluding it. It's like I don't see losers in life. I see all those who have won and the winning that is going on right now. That is why if Charlie Sheen hadn't taken, any of his substances, if he was still and silent, if he could quiet his mind, he'd realize, yes, it is true. Existence is always winning. Life is always winning. And it is also true. You can have tiger blood because it's your conception of what tiger blood is, And that reality is malleable because we are understanding through our greatest scientific theories that there is a hollowness that is unexplainable, but we choose to carry on with our explanations. And guess what? let me tell you what's going to happen. Science is going to reach a point where it's going to know that in the way it's seeking, it doesn't know. So, but it's a capable person explorer. Science is a capable explorer, but at the end, because it's based on duality, it cannot know a unified experience. It cannot communicate it. So, scientists will go, after a point, judging every single form in this wavelength. In other words, we are utilizing science based on limited bodies, so we're only exploring these bodies. It's as if we're not applying our sciences to the abstraction of mind. It's as if art has not found a way to hold hands with science in a union. So we need to bring about the union. This is what this generation is here to do. We're here to connect the dots for the next, infinity that is continuing, right? So how do we connect the dots? We bring and we merge categories. We realize categories are creating limitation. So what I am doing is I am speaking about many spiritual categories and scientific categories, and I'm communicating their blending, because I am here to connect different approaches to our technology which together can amplify. The artist who stands up on a science textbook is a bright mind. And when I say stands up, as in it's not limited to that. You understand that there's some things that are unspeakable. You realize that the book ends eventually, but life does not, because existence has been continuing to exist. So then, based on that one small axiom that suggests the infinity that we are, you begin to reevaluate and relook at your sense of time and space, and you will understand how your conditioning is. Guys, age depends on just how much you've had an ability to refresh your thought and be within the present moment. And at times that means how much attached you are. You feel old because you have old imagery in your mind. But at the same time, you're choosing how you feel about it. In other words, what I'm saying is pay attention to the value. Understand that contribution comes from looking at problems that are now and helping them. In other words, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're someone who's just celebrating their 99th birthday or their first birthday, and we'll understand this video probably years later. But what is important is that you understand that to contribute right now in this moment that you're alive, you need to look at a problem that is now. So in other words, the problem doesn't need to come from a sense of past, even though the answer may require that observance. But you need to understand, you need to ask problems that are real to you right now. So in other words, ask yourself, if there was one thing you could give to the world, if there was one thing you could do which would contribute to the world, what would it be? That first idea, you're not even thinking about. Just the first idea that comes to your mind, you go sit down and you go do that. And write a note for yourself. Write a note. Inspire yourself by writing inspiring ideas. Go read biographies of people who have lived very valuable lives. And you see that the value in their life was never in the way they lived it for themselves. It's the way you live for others that suggests how valuable of a being you are in a human. How much are you living for others? Or are you just living for yourself? And you see, when you live for others, you inspire collective movements that will bring about greater senses of change. Because you see, once you see a world that could be much more beautiful than the way it is, you begin not judging the beauty, not bashing the beauty. You don't attack other foundations, other institutions. You don't go attack other institutions because it's history. And you value life. You value the way it's manifested. But at the same time, you produce a very self-aware and new contribution. Contribute your self-awareness. If you have one line in your head which you think deserves to be seen by others, write it down. You're a writer. Write it down on a napkin. You're a writer. Write it down in your vision. You are always a writer. You're always a visionary. A visionary must be present, and we must not be deluded by the past, but in other words, must not be trapped by the past, but must be observant, must be holding that trap in his hand, and must be that I have learned from the mistakes, and so consciousness must be open. But I must also understand that learning from mistakes is not enough, because there are things I don't know, so I must trust the process of life. I must trust that I don't know, and even though I feel that I need to hold on to every single thing that is the new idea and the next understanding, I am here. And regardless of the divine play, regardless of the fabric of your reality, regardless of whether you think you're a multidimensional being or you feel you're a machine that's about to break, You are here and present, and you dictate the experience. You choose the dictators you want to see. You choose the conditioning you want to be a part of. Just know that if there's a conditioning that you have not done, you are another person's voice. So go find your own voice, and your own voice speaks in silence when every word has been taught to you by someone else. Discover yourself. Within every moment. Thank you. Much blessings, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode. I want to also suggest something very interesting, because there are times when random things come to us, and we must be attentive enough to pick it up. To be able to recognize that sometimes we must do meaningless actions to step in rooms that no one else has stepped in. Sometimes you need to feel like an idiot, but you will ask the greatest question ever asked. You know, it's your choice what you choose to do. Pretty much in life. You choose to take your opportunities or miss them. You choose to create your opportunities or not create them. You choose to get rid of all structure, or stand up on the highest terrace. You choose to be the point in your millennium, or you choose to study at Millennium Point. You begin understanding the intelligence in your playfulness. In other words, the greatest advice I feel I can tell to someone is that, first, stop asking me. Second, observe yourself very playfully. In other words, don't judge yourself for doing things. For example, don't judge yourself for making videos, but be very playful and slightly humorous with yourself, because you don't want to work with tension. You don't want to think about problems with, let's say, tensions in your body or in your mind. So once you relax this stuff, then you can be very playful with yourself. You know what that means is like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to this person. That was you're entertained because you're aware of yourself. And that's why you don't care about anyone else's game, because you don't have their eyes. Simply, you care about what you see. You care about the life you see, so you try to see life clearly. You try to actually hear other people's visions. You go look at what has been created before and what has been left to be now. You see the beauty in how in the morning the sun looks at you through infinite dewdrops on the grass. There's this fascination to life, and it's your experience. And everyone is an artist, because once you become self-aware, you reach a point where you're comfortable working with ideas, and your communication becomes amazing. Guys, there was a time where many ideas would come to me, but my communication was limited, and it was a veil of shyness, to be honest. But what happens is that sometimes you need to be shy, because you need to be observant of self. You need to see why you're shy. If you're shy, or if you have some kind of condition or some kind of insecurity, first of all, understand you could be like everyone has insecurities, true. But not everyone's handling their insecurities in the same way. Some people feel secure regardless of what they have. They're secure in mind. They're secure in thought. They're secure in behavior. In other words, the way they behave at the peak. They behave in the most helpful way. What does that mean? You don't limit people from information. You're not greedy with information. You're not greedy with money. You're not greedy with stuff. You're not greedy with goods. You're naturally playful. In other words, if I had $1 million, I would be playfully look at life and be like, where does this need to go? Where does this money need to contribute? And it doesn't need to be a house for me. It needs to be something that's making more of an eternal, lasting change. Because you see, that ice cream you buy at the store, that CD you buy, for your music is your choice. But at the same time, it's very little. You know, it's like, for example, this talk, I don't know. It may be put in the right spotlight and continued for longer than it has to, but eventually we see that we are temporal and our ideas are temporal. In other words, our purposes we may think are temporal. You see, that's the problem of today when you value only the physical aspect of humanity. When you're ignorant to formless observance, then you realize that you make people's purposes feel valueless, so people don't live very inspired. You need to find inspiration in your life, and you need to realize that it doesn't matter if it's on a macrocosmic scale or a microcosmic scale, you're having an experience of whatever detail. You know, it doesn't matter if you're the cell in your veins or if you're, you know, the planets around Earth. It doesn't matter what level of awareness and contribution you're giving. You are contributing to existence. It's just that you need to be self-aware, because you will see that you are an artist. You have a choice. You see, guys, free will is the presence of the artist to do anything, to be free to do anything. Now, when you realize you're not told to do something, some things you're not told to do because they're harming other people, and those are good to listen to. But some things you're told not to do because simply they're not talked about. In other words, it's as if the information that's coming to you, you need to filter it based on your personal eyes. That's why you have your own idea. That's why to be yourself is very important, because you realize yourself without being changed by other people's ideas. In other words, if someone writes something about you, or if someone talks about you in a certain way, you're not affected because you know yourself. You're not being defined by your externality. You know yourself by your internal sense of being, which is your vision, which is your imagination, which is your creation, which is the way you look at yourself. And it's really important, because sometimes you might look at yourself and you might be like, I'm like that piece of trash on the ground. You might look at yourself, you might be like, I'm just like, you know, that guy in the suit. You might look at yourself and be like, wait a minute, I'm just like this tree. And then you look at yourself, oh my God, I'm just like that sun. I'm bright, I'm with light, you know. And then you look at the sky, oh my God, I'm just like this vastness. It's like my imagination is just like the sky. And then you go, oh my God, I don't know what's after that. And you calm down, and suddenly all the stresses in your life go away and fade, because the certainty is gone. The certainty that you had to be this and you had to do that fade, and more of a natural approach comes, because you're allowing nature to speak through you. And that is when you will reveal more of yourself. Guys, you're working either with the information that you find is yours or is others, because there's a sense of other in this life. So look at the information that is yours. Take a book down, sit down, and write all the things before you knew you could see, before you knew who you were. You know, it's like before you started explaining things, everything in words. What were some visions you had? What was some childhood memories? What are some things that no one's ever talked about because only you've seen? Write these down for yourself and look at it and be observant, because your life has a very unique design. Everyone's life has a very unique design. We might be inspired by other leaders, but we're never the same leaders. I'm not a Terence McKenna. I'm not an Alan Watts. You know, I'm not a Gandhi. I'm Mr. Within. I'm what is here now. Similarly, everyone else has other designs, you know, and sometimes it's amazing, because it's as if when we have a bunch of other human beings, a bunch of different minds working together, we realize it's as if we're bringing, each person is a different answer. Guys, every human being, your consciousness, your capability is an answer to a problem. Solve some of those problems you're here to solve, and just enjoy your transition into your greater sense of knowing, because you're knowing more and knowing more. Why do you think after death you have to be condemned to an era where you don't know? Why? Is it because it's formless? Well, if it's formless, pay attention to the formless now. What does the formless mean to you in a world of form? What is the greatest rebellion in a world that's objectified by breaking the object? Don't break the object. Don't get rid of thinking all your values right now. Don't break the object, but observe the object. Look at what you're holding in front of yourself, which is the idea of who you are, and see if there are great. You need to explore it much more, you know. And I hope with all this, you find the blessings that are being given to you. Every person has unique abilities, talents, skills, because there's a different attention of existence to their design. Enjoy your design and let your presence be the leading factor in your life. Because leadership comes with the appreciation of the presence of yourself being equal with all of existence. The greatest leaders, it's as if Martin Luther King saw the equality before it was equal. You see the potential before it's there. You see the vision before it appears, and you speak it, but you don't know it. You're uncertain as well. But you know that there's a direction. You have this inner knowing that tells you to communicate, and you follow it. That is excitement in life, guys. Your life is not exciting if you know every single thing you're supposed to do. Your life is exciting because there is an unknown sense that can break your ego, that can get rid of this mental association that is limiting your vision of your experience and your being. Much blessings.